Hello, welcome to this climate change session. We're very excited to have you here. And it might sound like a big deal, it might sound very complicated, but we're going to make it as simple as possible for you. Okay, so climate change is a very, very big topic. It covers a lot of subtopics, but we'll break it down into simple ideas and make it as easy as possible. So the first thing I'm going to touch on is what is climate change, right? Climate change is so our planet has undergone a lot of changes in history, and human beings are the one who have brought about these changes. So all these factors have generated very, very serious environmental problems. One of them being global warming, which we will touch upon later. So I'm sure you've experienced that the climate these days is getting much hotter year by year. And even in places like Chennai, where it didn't rain a lot earlier, it's been raining a lot more. So, this is basically what we call climate change.
So causes of climate change. There are two main causes of climate change. The first one would be natural causes. So this basically is like when there's like large solar temperature variation, which is basically having lots of extreme heat, or when it suddenly gets really cold. And then there is something called human causes, which is actions that we ourselves do that make our temperatures hotter and eventually lead to this effect called the greenhouse effect, which I will explain. When you use due to human causes, basically when you're building factories or something, it will release more gases like carbon dioxide, nitrous oxide, or methane. These are three chemical gases which, when they enter into our earth, it traps the heat. Like you wear a blanket at night, it basically traps the heat and makes the earth feel more warmer, and less heat is able to escape into out of the earth. So it's basically like as you're adding more and more blankets, you feel warmer at night. This is what these three main gases are doing to our earth.
Okay. So how does climate change affect the Earth? Hold up one second. Okay, so let's talk about what happens when climate change affects the Earth. So climate change generates like several problems that not only affect the ecosystem but also us. It like Climate change brings about intense rains, floods that destroy crops, homes, and it completely destroys people's lives as well. Then there are other places like Rajasthan, which experience droughts, and like other types of pollution, like gas and water pollution, can also affect foods, right?
Okay. The climate change also has very diverse and adverse and harmful impacts on nature as well as the planet. So when we look at animals, climate change is really bad for animals and plants, right? How Saanvi had spoken about, climate change causes droughts, and droughts are really detrimental for animals because it ruins their habitat and their ecosystem, and they're forced to migrate to different kinds of places, and which is not part of the natural cycle, right? Like for example, some animals like the snow leopards are forced to migrate to certain warmer regions because of the melting snow in the Himalayas and their shrinking habitats, right? But these animals are used to the cold, and when it gets hot for them, it's harder for them to survive, and as a result, we're losing a lot of a lot of our biodiversity, right? And in terms of plants, even plants are adversely affected. For example, in India itself, tea plantations in Assam are facing challenges because of changing rainfall patterns, which affects the production. It, in addition to these climate change impacts, there's also deforestation, which is again really bad for all the tribal people living in the forest habitats and even the animals living in the forest habitats. So overall, climate change has adverse impacts on animals and plants, and that's another reason why it is very important to sort of mitigate and reduce the impacts of climate change.
Okay, so what is So, what is greenhouse effect? It is basically, it is not generally harmful. It is fundamental for life on planet Earth. Without the greenhouse effect, we would have severe weathers, and greenhouse effect is what allows us to stay warm and what prevents us from having very cold weathers. But because so many gases are trapped in the atmosphere, the heat from the sun, it isn't able to escape into space. So this causes global warming, which further causes climate change. So, as I mentioned earlier, these are the three main gases that cause the greenhouse effect, which is carbon dioxide, which is released through respiration by us and by plants as well. And methane and nitrous oxide are mainly released by factories. And in India, there are multiple factories. So, all of these factories together release methane and nitrous oxide. But these gases are also released through natural methods, but the main problem is human causes. And
so there are a lot of things that we do at home daily that are contributing to climate change, that are causing climate change, and we don't realize that these can be so harmful to the environment. One is using plastic bags, using polythene bags. Although plastic is banned in India, a lot of people still use polythene and plastic to get groceries or whatever. Uh, when we throw these plastic bags away, they don't go away for a very long time. They stay in the earth. They don't decompose, is what you call it, which is a very big problem. They stay in the environment for hundreds of years, can even end up in the ocean and hurt animals. Another thing is wasting food. Since we're little kids, our parents have told us to not throw away your food or eat everything that you've taken in your plate. So when food rots in landfill, so when you throw away food, it's taken to a landfill, which is kind of an empty place where no one lives or is not habited, sorry, is where this food is all dumped, which releases a gas called methane. Shriya talked about it earlier, which makes climate change a lot worse. Another thing is leaving on the lights, leaving on the fan, leaving on the air conditioning when you're not using it, which uses a lot of energy. And the more energy we use, the more problem it creates for our environment.
Okay. So, top five consequences of climate change, basically, like how it affects and how we are experiencing it right now, is one through the rising temperatures that we see not only in India but all around the world, including Dubai right now. Then there are droughts that I explained before, which people in Rajasthan experience. But now it's not only Rajasthan that's experiencing it, right? Places which normally don't did not. Expect to see drought are seeing drought, which is not good for them. Then extreme weather events. So some places have either really hot days or really cold days, and the rainfall's increasing as well in certain places, right? Um, yeah.
Yeah. Now let's move on to easy ways to help at home. So the good news is that we can all do something to stop climate change. Even small changes can make big differences. For example, you can turn off the lights when you leave the room. It saves electricity and helps you reduce the amount of energy we use, right? And then when we use reusable bags and bottles, it also helps reduce climate change. So instead of using plastic bags, which are bad for the environment, we can also try using reusable bags like jute bags, etc., again and again. And finally, you can also save water by taking shorter showers, especially in places where water is hard to get. So this can make a huge difference. One last reason is unplugging devices, just like turning off the lights. Unplugging devices when it is not necessary to charge them can help you save electricity and again reduce your total carbon emissions.
At the end, we have a small quiz based on what was taught today.
Okay, so the first question of the quiz is, what is climate change? Option A, when it rains every day. Option B, when the Earth's temperature changes over a long time. Option C, when summer never ends. Option D, when we eat too much ice cream.
If you ask me, all for A, B, C are all right, consequences of climate change. But if you are seeking the correct answer, it is option B.
Yes, sir,
Yeah.
that is correct.